we're very proud at Smart Spaces to help bring together such a collection, a broad church really, of all the necessary service partners and software systems and facility systems that you need to deliver a unified, ultimately a better end user experience that you can deliver to real estate today. So I'm delighted to be joined by three of our key partners today who are going to now introduce themselves, and we're going to go into a bit of a fireside Q&A and discover more about how they are helping to unify that experience across real estate. So, Kaine, if we can start with you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Kaine. I'm one of the architect and engineering managers here at Axis Communications. Those of you in the room that don't know, we're predominantly a surveillance company, so we do operate in the security industry, but we're looking to move more into that business intelligence, operational efficiency type segment. So we're looking to see really in the showcase what needs are needed and what we can do to optimise things like smart buildings with our sensors.
Brilliant. Viet?
Hi, I'm Viet from Genetec. Sorry, wrong show. Yeah, I'm one of the account executives at Genetec focused on smart buildings. Genetec, we're basically a platform when it comes to building security. We have technologies such as access control, ANPR, CCTV, intercoms. It's almost a bit like a shopping list and more. So again, like I say, technology is changing. We're adding more and more features to it. And what you mentioned, Kaine, we're moving massively into IoT-based and sensor-based technologies to bring that security element all together.
Brilliant. And Dominic?
Hi, everyone. So Dominic Bruning. I'm a Director of Strategic Alliances at HID and responsible for the region Europe, Middle East and Africa. Typically, I work with technology partners. Technology partners are smart spaces who are building a lot of integrations, making a building smart. What we do at HID is give you access to the building. So at the front door, the readers, you tap with a card, and in the future, through the mobile phone. So that's what I'm doing, is making the shift from physical cards, plastic, to the mobile experience as seamless as possible through partnerships like Smart Spaces.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys. And obviously with a focus this afternoon around security. The modern security sector is fast-paced, as we know. Dominic's aptly just illustrated we're moving from physical IDs to virtual ones. But with the speed of innovation only increasing, we're interested in what trends you are seeing at the moment and how this is affecting how clients use security systems. So I think, Dominic, if we stick with you for a moment, we're seeing mobile first access, biometrics, AI reshape everything. Tell us a little bit about where you're seeing the trends move.
Well, you mentioned a few things. So, biometrics is coming more and more mainstream, I would say. So I think that's creating opportunities, but also additional complexities as well, because you're introducing new ways of authenticating. I mean, we also are authenticating on our phone every day, so that's pretty standard, I would say. AI everywhere. I mean, AI is everything and nothing at the same time today, because it's a promise of new things, new shiny stuff in the future, new ways of doing things better, faster, and more efficiency. I think there's a multitude of use cases for AI. Just depends on where you bring it in, whether you bring it in the hardware on the edge device, like Axis do, or maybe other companies. Whether it's in the platform, the access control, video surveillance systems, or whether it's in the smart building space. So I think there's tons of innovation that's going to happen in AI. Some of it will stick, and some of it will just fizzle away. But I think there's going to be a huge amount of innovation there.
Amazing. That's fantastic. And so, Kaine, you've probably shifted more from traditional surveillance too. Can you tell us a little bit about where you're seeing the trends go?
Yeah, so I think traditional surveillance is, everybody knows, is pretty much a second set of eyes in another room. And that tends to be the only conversation you have with anybody outside of the industry. But what we're seeing is utilising our cameras as a sensor and not just that second set of eyes in the room, and seeing what you can do with the data beyond just the visual capture to optimize things like retail settings, commercial buildings, and how you can fully optimize a space to demonstrate a return on investment. So, yeah, I mean, we're looking at trying to bridge that gap really between old, maybe analog systems and retrofit buildings into bringing us into, let's say, the 21st century, but also providing that return on investment, as I say. So in terms of the trends that we're seeing, I'll probably echo what Dominic have said. It is a little bit of a buzzword, but the AI piece, we use it a little bit differently. We probably use it through our analytics on the camera. What we're trying to do is shift that more to an edge capability, so the processing's done on the camera and it's not as intensive on the server, for example. So that's probably the only trend in my facility that I can probably add to. Yeah.
Awesome. And I think given Viet's got a cocktail in his hand, we might get some some brutally honest responses here. But, of course, Genetec spans access, video analytics, SaaS, hybrid deployments. I mean, tell us a bit about where you're seeing what's coming next.
Yeah, so there's lots going on. What is nice, having come back for a second year, what I was talking about last year from a trend perspective. Last year I was talking about, adding more systems together, getting people to think a lot about the systems which I have. This year, in the last, 24 hours, I've had 3 or 4 people talk about converged systems. So I'd like to think I've participated in that conversation from last year to this year. And more people are starting to talk about systems which they have, what they can do more with their system. Is there a system which can run more? And that's a key word as well, is everyone wants more, more cocktails, lovely. But also their systems do more, because it's not about opening, closing doors now. It's not about reading. It's not about cameras. It's about, we're going to invest in that. We know we're going to invest in that technology, but what more can we do with that? Is it going to help us reduce carbon footprint? Is it going to help us turn green? On top of all of this, the other trend is easy. Because with all this technology and all this data being written together, the constant question I get asked is it easy to deploy? Is it easy to expand? Can it be flexible? Ultimately, the answer should be yes. Because if we make it too complicated and unflexible, you lose them. So that's a second trend. And obviously it comes back all the way back after all of that down to value. Yes, you can make it easy. Yes, you can make it expansive. Yes, it can do this, that, and the other. But where's the value? Can it expand? And it's not going to cost an arm and a leg to do that. So yeah, those are... Sorry, I thought it was a cocktail. Those are the key trends which I'm seeing. So it's a big pot of, what you're talking about, like adding AI to the capabilities, expanding the system, making it easy, making it good value. That's what I'm starting to see a lot more of.
Brilliant. No, fantastic. And, at Smart Spaces, we like to keep things as simple as possible. It's a very complicated world to join everything together. So they certainly share that sentiment. But the opportunity is clearly huge, and we're very cognizant that silos remain. So we're really keen to understand from your perspective, really, how can we leverage, or better leverage, really, connected systems to drive this efficiency and this better experience that everybody's just so hankering for. So, Dominic, identity is the center of this, really. So can you please tell us a bit about how you feel we can drive better efficiency and experience?
Yeah, it's a big topic. I think the systems today, they're coming from a siloed perspective. What we see is that people are trying to do too many manual, sort of what we call the swivel chair effect, where you're cutting and pasting information from one system to another system. It's archaic, really. It doesn't work real time because you're not swiveling fast enough, or you go for a coffee break and things break down, or data is not well reproduced. So I think if you're a corporate enterprise or a modern, with security at the forefront, this is a weak link, right? Humans in the loop are a weak link here, and the systems are siloed. So, this is a big challenge. The operating challenges for businesses are are there, and yeah, they're not going to go away tomorrow because, as you mentioned, Viet, it costs money. There's a lot of legacy infrastructure in place. The industry's been built up in a very siloed, proprietary system approach, and that's breaking out now. So you mentioned, everyone wants to sweat their assets more. I mean, it costs a lot of money to invest in hardware, in software, in technology. And people want to, maximize their return on investment for years to come. So, unfortunately, these shortcuts do happen, and because they're built as workarounds in the meantime, you can't rip and replace stuff every day. So that the movement of identity and credentials and is a swivel chair thing today in a lot of systems. I think that's a problem.
Yeah, no, I can definitely. That definitely resonates. Nobody's looking for a cliff edge. I think there are clearly catalysts. You could be a new development, it could be moving, end of life plant. You have to upgrade systems. It might be a lease event if it's a landlord-driven asset. That necessitates an investment, but that's a very small percentile of the whole of real estate. So, Kaine, when you look at legacy systems, how do you help your clients go on that upgrade pathway?
Yeah, so to bring it back around, old analog systems, they are still prevalent. I mean, a lot of people do try to make that transition to IP and have done over the past couple of decades. But we do still see older systems out there. So what we try to do at Axis is make that transition over into the digital age a lot easier. First and foremost, by not ripping out and replacing, as Dom mentioned there, it can be a costly exercise. So we bring in technologies like encoders, so you can utilize existing systems and start building the backbone for a system that's going to work way into the future. Start building it brick by brick rather than leveling it all and rebuilding again. And then secondly, really, is that openness that we all have. You can see here today 3 different vendors in the security industry, and we will and do talk seamlessly together to make sure a complete solution is built into that ecosystem. And yeah, as I say, it might not necessarily be a full system from day one, and that's great for the procurement guys, and particularly for facilities managers. It's a nice phased transition rather than having a full headache going in. And you can rest assured, we do speak in the industry. There might be segments of our product that you'll use, likewise with Genetec, HID, but we do talk to one another to make sure it all works seamlessly. So that's probably what I'd finish on that point.
No, yeah. Perfect. Yeah, clearly collaboration is at the heart of this, and obviously Genetec, you're one of those leading players. As the Kaine just perfectly described, open platforms lie at the heart of this. So, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Like I say, what Dominic and Kaine said is, there's a lot of existing technology out there. Okay, and obviously, the great thing which we're all starting to see, the last couple of days is conversation. We're getting property owners, we're getting consultants come up to us and say, look, how do we go on this smart journey approach with existing systems? Okay, that's the first point, is identifying they want to start this journey. Okay, from there, it's almost understanding what they have, readers, card technology, cameras, infrastructure, almost breaking down, almost having a big bit of paper and jotting down their ideas. What do we have? Okay, once they identify that, where do we want to go to? Okay, a smart technology building which does this, that, and the other, and opens and closes doors and flashes bright lights and all sorts. If that's the aim, this is where we can come in and help guide them through. Okay, it's not an overnight journey. I've said this to a lot of customers which have embarked on this. There's going to be some tears. Okay, you've identified it. You want to get to the end point. You will have some tears. Okay, but when you look at the other side, and once you start phasing out these little bits of technology, it's one bit at a time. We go from 10 bits down to 9 bits, down to 8 bits. When they get to the other side, they're going, oh my God, that was great. Why didn't we do that before? So that's the key thing, is identifying what they have, identifying where they want to go. I'm not going to lie. Genetec has a platform will slot exactly in there, because we have the partners which we work with. We're all open here, open architecture. We all speak to each other, not only on a daily and regular basis, over the phone and face to face, but also we talk to each other from platform to platform, right? And that's the key thing: open communication, platforms which can adjust, change, and move.
Awesome. No, brilliant. Obviously, we got a strong theme here of collaboration, and it's great that we can all work together. It's the new world order. It's the new world order drives us towards. Excuse me. Talking about collaboration, I'm choking on my words here. So, at Smart Spaces, our purpose is optimizing environments for people and the planet. So, what we've been hearing a lot about is how we optimize that end user, that end customer experience, deliver a safe, meaningful arrival virtually, securely, with this collaboration. But real estate has a big obligation and commitment towards sustainability. So we think about the end user, that experience being optimized, but then we think about the environment as well being optimized. So with sustainability front of mind for everyone working in commercial real estate, how do you guys see smart buildings balance that investment in sustainability with cost, which we've mentioned, experience, ultimately the return, and then alongside the compliance pressures? So quite a broad, open question, this one. But yeah, Kaine, maybe you could kick us off with where you see how you're able to have an impact there.
Yeah, so typically it's driven by legislation, right? Most people don't take action until they're forced to do so. There's maybe financial penalties at play. But what we like to do at Axis is sort of pioneer that sustainability piece right at the very beginning. So we manufacture the camera with sustainability in mind. Then when it goes out to be deployed, we will only partner with people who have the same principles in the industry. And what we tend to find is once it gets deployed into that setting, into that real world setting, what can we do beyond just that security aspect to actually optimize those efficiencies within buildings? Some of the stuff that we look to do is power consumption benefits, bandwidth consumption benefits, just pulling as much strain off the grid as possible. That in and of itself is sustainable practice. And then you can drive that return on investment piece as well. So a lot of companies do have those ESG compliance regulations, whatnot to comply to. But a lot of organizations set their own. So they don't necessarily follow legislative compliance. They'll set their own because they know what's coming. It's beneficial for everybody in that ecosystem, and we just try to play our part in it. So yeah, that's probably where I'd
No, that's awesome. It's spot on. And Dom, when I think about moving organisations away from plastic consumption, particularly around ID cards and into mobile IDs. People often say to me, well, we've only got 1,000 employees. What impact is that going to make? But when you total up across an organisation as big as HID and the amount of physical cards issued globally, we're into the billions of cards. And that's a substantial environmental saving there. So tell us a little bit about how HID are approaching sustainability and what your views are.
Yeah, I think your point there is every little bit counts. So, it may be one small percentage or less than a percentage of the total building's consumption, but you attack it in small places all the time. So everywhere in the building you can address these things. But if you talk about cards, obviously the use of cards, plastic, that's not necessarily a great thing. So obviously shifting from plastic to digital is a great environmental move. There's other costs though that affect the use of plastics. There's printers that print the cards. There's mailing that happens. So especially in large countries where people have been working from home and they need that pass being sent to them in the mail. That's another environmental impact. So looking at it from a sort of operating cost, it really adds up. So it's not just the cost of the plastic or the issuance of the cards, but physical cards get lost. They churn through hundreds of cards a year because people forget their cards. They leave them in the pub on a Friday night. They never leave their phone in the pub on a Friday night because they need to catch the Uber to get home. So they'll find that out and they'll get their phone. But, they turn up to the office on a Monday morning and, I don't have my card here. And I've come early. And there's no one there to let me in, so I'm standing in the rain now. And then when I get in, I have to waste another half an hour getting a new badge produced. And actually, I have to pay for that badge. So it comes out of my payroll because I'm one of the bad offenders. So, I think all of those things are not just the environmental thing, but it's, the environmental and the operating thing creates a better user experience fundamentally.
Oh, awesome. And Viet, so tell us a bit about how Genetec's Unified Centre is driving sustainability.
Yeah, exactly. Like I say, right at the beginning, I did that shopping list, named 5-6 different platforms, which comes under the Genetec umbrella. That alone, if you can remove 5 or 6 different systems running on your network, running in comms rooms, and if you're looking at resilience, is double that up within one building. But then you times that across a portfolio of 10, 15, 20 buildings, you're removing a significant amount of technology, power, consumption. Not only that is the ability to be flexible and expand in the future. That in itself is huge. Okay, that is where we're helping. There's no single bullet to sort ESG and sustainability out, but working with our partners like HID, like Axis, and being more efficient with the technology which we're integrating into Genetec, being more demanding on the technology and the servers which we're using. Again, not only are you removing what I mentioned previously about all those different technologies, working with efficient partners to do mobile credentials, to do efficient camera and monitoring. Again, you're removing another layer of carbon, adding more to what you're doing for the environment. And as I said, on top of that, moving to mobile credentials. But one thing which we're starting to do a big shift towards is cloud as well. So everything I mentioned, that big shopping list, from a Genetec perspective, is shifting that up to the cloud. So all of a sudden, you're running sites just with edge technology, efficient edge technology, minimal plastic, up in the cloud. All of a sudden, you are doing a lot. And being honest, the companies like Microsoft and Google and Amazon, they've got their ESG incentives, which you're piggybacking on the back of. So all of a sudden, you look really good. You deploying this kind of technology, looking great to your end users.
That's awesome. And so infrastructure choices are clearly important. Brilliant, the energy and sustainability that could be driven as well through services like Axis. And I think also, we touched on the end user experience, like the benefit to the end user, but then also the powerful insights and the data that can be gained through the mobile access gives us a really good insight of space management, doesn't it, inside buildings?
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing with here, when you talk about AI and data insights, I mean, the two come together really. That's going to drive new value propositions, new services, new monetization opportunities. Digitalization is really the combination of going digital, but also new business models. Those are both threats and opportunities. We've seen, from the year 2000 to today, 52% of the Fortune 500 companies no longer exist on that list. Because they've been disrupted out of the business. It's typically known as the Kodak moment. So no one wants to be sort of innovated out of the business. So there's going to be huge investment, money pouring into AI. But it's actually a contrary argument to what we were talking about with the sustainability, because obviously the more you move to AI, that huge energy consumption, water consumption is going to be used in the cloud by the tech giants, the AWSs, the Azures of this world. So, sometimes we're looking at our own back garden, but, there is a holistic view here as well. And I think there are some big challenges here, how to use AI efficiently. Every time I use ChatGPT, I'm thinking about that, but it's addictive, right? I mean, we're going to get into that, and those things are going to percolate through into business systems, into smart buildings. Having a chat with our building in a few years' time, I think we're not that far away from. So that user experience is going to be very addictive. And who can deliver it first? Maybe Smart Spaces is on that journey to deliver that first. They're going to capture the hearts and minds of the customers, I think.
No, that's great. Yeah, certainly. And obviously, at this conference, we are launching Space Agent, which is our agentic layer for the Smart Spaces platform. And, super, super exciting. I think the ability to just, use natural language to query the data sets in your buildings and serve up real insights that are meaningful and you can act on in real time is going to revolutionize the built world, that's for sure. So now we're going to find out if Viet's cocktail has kicked in with the last question, because I need you to fast forward 5 years. Space Agent is obviously fully functional and running real estate for us. But from your perspective, so what does truly, what does a smart building look like in 5 years? What does it look like to you from your, for the work that you do and the experiences that you see and encounter with your clients? And what's the biggest barrier that we need to overcome, to get there? So yeah, maybe Viet, you can kick stuff.
Yeah, so to read the future, I'd love to do that, but at least you can kind of sort of take a punt at it.
You need tea leaves.
Let me just wobble this around. So I see the future. What I see the future as is almost removing lots of this old technology, stripping it back. Okay, having a handful of clever, smart platforms working together. Interrogating data. AI is going to be a big player in that. I love AI. Use ChatGPT all the time. Late at night, have a chat with it. How can I earn more money and
your new friend?
Yeah. How can I save more money and spend less? But what this week, what I saw on the smart spaces, with your new agent, having that speaking to a Genetec, Genetec, how many people have been there? How many times has that door been used? You can use that data for maintenance. You're not only using it for security, you're using it for maintenance. In a building, all they want to do is just make sure everyone can come in, everyone's safe using technology, but it keeps running. Okay, and you're using camera analytics, using the reader information collectively. Everyone here is going to be able to create that smart building. Now, how do you get there? $1 million question is engage. Don't be afraid, because there's a lot of people out there that want to go to the smart building, but they're not willing to take that first step. Take that first step. Engage with all of us. Okay, and we'll help you. It will help guide them along the way. And as I said, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, all of our technologies will carry on talking to each other, working optimally, maybe create a really smart environment. But as I said, I just need to take that first step. Trust us. We're all clever people, and we'll just help them along the way.
Yeah, I love that. I think what's really interesting about that point, actually, before we move on to the other panelists to give their responses, is the prompt that you give the agent. Does it occur to you to even ask the question? And I think what this does, where we are opening up natural language querying, is you don't have to be an engineer. You don't have to be a security specialist to ask the agent the question. So you can then expose this to other divisions, right? To other people, HR, and get them to ask the questions that are meaningful to them and see what the agent returns. So yeah, it's a game changer for sure. So Kaine, how about from your perspective?
Yeah, so just to add to that, there's probably a lot that we will echo. But the biggest piece for me is automation. Not a fully autonomous building, because we want to still live as humans, right? We still want to live in there and have some sense of freedom. But that automation piece, i.e. using camera technology to sense whether you need to turn off the HVAC system, for example, and just taking that operator out of the equation. 1, it saves on cost. And 2, it just makes things more intelligent for people, just in general. So if you used to say, let's paint a scenario, you've got an office block and it rents spaces out, but for 3 days of the week, it's not being occupied at the moment. Okay, well, you still want that environment to be energy efficient, but you want it to be comfortable when people do eventually use that space. So, for us using our technology, we'd want to monitor that and say, okay, when somebody passes through a threshold, we turn on the heating, make that room nice and comfortable. Equally, if there's too many people in the building, we turn on the ventilation. And that's just a very simple analytic that we can do with our camera, and we'll plug into other systems like a Genetec system to achieve that. So yeah, I'd say the key point is really the automation, not fully, but just taking some of those decisions away from a human.
Yeah, no, that's spot on. And I think, when we look at space management, resource booking, trying to forward plan and understand, what the demand will be on space, you then can react in real time too. So, Dominic's people pass through the building and they badge in. That's your first data point to say, we need to bring some systems online now because people are coming to the office. So, yeah, I mean, in the next 5 years, how do you see a true smart building really being, reflected in the market and valuable to the end user?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that are going on that have been touched on by my esteemed colleagues here in terms of technology, proprietary technology that we have today that doesn't talk well to other systems. A lot of that will be transferred out to the building. I think people are moving more to more open standards. It's not acceptable that you have like proprietary jail anymore from systems. And then people come in with aftermarket services that you have to pay a fortune for. So I think the thing I think about is my API will be my contract to do business. So we will have APIs. They will be consumed by others. And that will make us relevant in the space, in the smart building. Without that, systems won't talk. They won't be able to exchange systems, information between different systems. So I think, along with agentic AI, those two things are going to shift quite dramatically from where they are now to in the future, because it's going to be easier to develop APIs, to write to APIs, and to communicate with them, to get different systems. I still think, though, that we have a job to get data normalized in the right place, to make sense of it. We've all looked at data and we've gone, can I trust this data? Is it 80%? Is directional data good enough? And sometimes you need 100%, right? I mean, 98% is not always good enough. So we've got to be able to trust that data. There's got to be sort of data integrity, data security, data lineage. And of course, a lot of these things clash with a lot of the compliance regulations, GDPR. Those have always got to be treated when we talk about data and AI in a very responsible way. So I think companies that can demonstrate that are also on to a winner in terms of the smart buildings and the services that you ultimately deliver and add value for the customers.
Oh, amazing. No, thank you. Brilliant. Thank you, everyone. I think, it's clearly palatable here that it's only possible when we all work together. You can see from the showcase how many different systems can now speak to each other via platforms like Smart Spaces to, try and at least open up this conversation around what you can get from a truly connected digital building. So you have your data analytics, you have security, you have the application layer, and then you go into your corporate IT environment around calendars and space management and identity. And you bring this all together. Smart Spaces is helping our partners and our clients to bridge that divide, really, particularly between landlord space and corporate tenant space, and look at it globally. Because while we're faced with a world at the moment that's on a course for every single landlord to deliver their own platform, their own version of a platform, their own mobile ID provider, and you're a corporate tenant and you've now got to connect to 50 or 60 different landlord platforms to get into your real estate. So when you look at it from that perspective, it sounds unmanageable. And we think the secret is the corporate enterprise being facilitated to drive the user experience, the identity, the credential management, and then connect them back to 50 or 60 different landlord locations. And that's the kind of work we've been pioneering at Smart Spaces. And it's brilliant that our partners here help us facilitate that. So brilliant. So thank you, everyone. Great conversation.
Thank you.